Your late evening BBC News now with Clive Myrie.
The White House says an Azerbaijani airliner that crashed on Christmas Day, killing dozens of people, was possibly shot down by Russia. An initial report by the airline itself suggests the crash was due to external interference. NATO is to beef up its military presence in the Baltic Sea as Russia is accused of sabotaging underwater power cables to Estonia. Dense fog means disruption for thousands of people at some of the UK's busiest airports. Good evening. The White House says it's seen early indications that an Azerbaijani Airlines passenger jet that crashed on Christmas Day, killing dozens of people, was possibly brought down by Russian air defense systems. The airline itself says the initial results of an investigation suggest the cause was some kind of external interference. Well, 38 people died when the plane came down 2 miles short of the runway at Aktau Airport in Kazakhstan. It had originally tried to land at Grozny Airport in southern Russia, but witnesses say there was an explosion before the plane was diverted. John Donnison has our top story.
This is the moment the plane went down. It's remarkable anyone survived. But emerging from the wreckage, some did. The flight had been diverted to Kazakhstan after passengers heard bangs when it tried to land at its original destination, Grozny, in Chechnya.
They say there were 2 bangs, but I only heard one. It was quite substantial. I honestly didn't hear the second one. At first, only some of the oxygen masks fell out. Not all of them.
Investigators are now examining the damage to the outside of the plane. The owner, Azerbaijan Airlines, said only that it had suffered external physical and technical interference. The Kremlin has again refused to comment on speculation that it was mistakenly brought down by a Russian air defense system.
I'd like to point out that the situation on that day and during those hours in the area around Grozny Airport was very difficult. Ukrainian military drones were carrying out terrorist attacks on civilian infrastructure in the city of Grozny and others nearby.
In Azerbaijan today, the first funerals for some of the 38 people who were killed. Why they died will take time to find out and will likely be disputed. John Donnison, BBC News.
Well, Tom Bateman is live in Washington for us now. Tom, what are White House officials actually saying about all this?
Well, the White House, Clive, is saying that the information it has about this goes beyond what is in the public domain. So further than those images that we've seen of the puncture marks in the aircraft fuselage, the spokesman, John Kirby, was asked directly about the cause of this today and about what they knew. And he said that the early indications would certainly point to the possibility that the jet was brought down by Russian air defense systems. Now, what we know of the Russian account of this is, as you've heard there from the aviation watchdog, saying that there were what they described as complex conditions over Grozny at the time. They say that there was dense fog, but also claiming that there was Ukrainian drones were in the area carrying out attacks at the time, and for that reason they had diverted civilian aircraft. On top of that, there is the passenger accounts of hearing loud explosions coming from outside the aircraft, and aviation experts suggesting that the damage is consistent with that they would expect from a surface-to-air missile. As for the Kremlin, it has been asked about this. The spokesman there saying that they will make no comment about reports that Russian air defences shot this down until the completion of the investigation by Azerbaijan itself.
All right. Tom, thanks for that. Tom Bateman there live in Washington. NATO says it will enhance its military presence in the Baltic Sea after Russia was accused of sabotaging Estonia's main power link in the Gulf of Finland. Yesterday, the Finnish Coast Guard boarded an oil tanker suspected of damaging the undersea cable. Caroline Hawley has more details.
NATO and other Western officials have repeatedly expressed concern about increased Russian sabotage in Europe. So it wasn't long before a link was made between a ship carrying Russian oil and the undersea power cable damaged on Christmas Day. This is the Eagle S, which the EU believes is part of a shadow fleet of ageing oil tankers used by Russia to evade sanctions. It was seized by Finnish police and Coast Guard early yesterday, shortly after the underwater power cable went down, dramatically reducing the supply of electricity to Estonia. It's the latest in a series of acts of suspected sabotage against critical infrastructure that have taken place since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. There have been 3 in just the last few weeks. If you look here, you can see a data cable between Helsinki, the Finnish capital, and the German port of Rostock, severed last month. And then here's that power cable between Finland and Estonia, which could take several months to repair. Investigators believe the Eagle S, located here by satellite navigation software after leaving a port in Russia, deliberately caused the damage by dragging its anchor through the cable. Several data cables were also broken, and the Finnish president says criminal proceedings are beginning.
We've got the situation under control, and we have to continue work together vigilantly to make sure that our critical infrastructure is not damaged by outsiders. It's too soon to draw conclusions yet why this happened. We know who did it.
There are now nearly 1 million miles of underwater cables carrying electricity and our electronic data, and then also pipelines carrying gas and oil, all vulnerable to attack, which is why NATO is so concerned. This joint exercise last month, called Operation Freezing Wind, involved the navies of 15 countries, including the UK, and nearly 4,000 personnel. They were practicing, among other things, how to detect and respond to threats against critical underwater infrastructure. Today, the Estonian Navy was out patrolling their coastline, guarding the one other power cable still working. NATO has promised today to help Estonia and Finland by enhancing its military presence in the Baltic Sea, although the alliance has given no further details.
Caroline Hawley reporting for us there. A man has been charged with murder after the suspected stabbing of 2 women who died in a block of flats in Milton Keynes on Christmas Day. Giona Grant, who was 24, and Joanne Pearson, who was 38, died at the scene in Santa Cruz Avenue in Bletchley. A man and a teenage boy were also taken to hospital with serious injuries. Thames Valley Police have charged Jaswell Brown with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. He's due to appear at High Wycombe Magistrates Court tomorrow. Passengers at some of the UK's busiest airports are continuing to face disruption due to dense fog. Air traffic restrictions are in place at several airports, including Manchester and Gatwick. The country's main air traffic control provider is urging people to arrive at the airport as normal and check with their airlines. Well, Eunice Muller joins us now from Manchester Airport with more details. Eunice.
Clive, what is reasonable to expect around this time of year is that normal schedules will kick in. So you've got people who might have gone away for Christmas returning back home, or people who might be planning to spend the new year away. Instead, what you've had is disruption at several airports across the country, including the busiest, Heathrow, Cardiff, Manchester. And if I go in there into Manchester Airport's Terminal 2, you'll see flight after flight, which has been delays up to 3 hours in some cases. We've spoken to passengers who have been stuck for several hours, and it's all down to this widespread fog which we've been experiencing over the past few days here in the UK. What that's caused is low visibility, and that's meant that that steady flow of flights into the UK has been reduced. Air traffic control measures have been put in place. Now, that's usually done for safety reasons, and that situation is being constantly monitored. Now, what the airports are saying is that they're trying to stick to normal schedules, but you do have disruption. The airlines are doing their best to try and warn passengers. Pilots have been making announcements on journeys into the UK. Now, what we are expecting, of course, is that this disruption is continuing, but visibility should get better over the next few days. The advice to passengers is to check with your airline, something that you should always do. But in this case, of course, it's really important they do that before they arrive at the airport. But the airports do want them to arrive here as normal.
All right, Eunice, thank you. Eunice Muller there, live at Manchester Airport. A NASA spacecraft has made history by surviving the closest ever approach to the sun. Scientists received a signal from the Parker Solar Probe yesterday evening after being out of communication for several days, but now it's safe and operating normally after passing just 3.8 million miles from the solar surface. Currently, we on Earth are about 93 million miles away from the sun. Now, the data the spacecraft gathers could help better forecast our own weather events, as Palab Ghosh reports.
It seems like science fiction, sending an uncrewed spacecraft to the sun. NASA's Parker Solar Probe was designed to withstand its scorching heat. But could it? NASA has now confirmed that it has. The spacecraft sent back a beacon signal indicating that it survived the closest ever approach to the sun.
We have never had a human-made object so close to the sun. Also, we had to not melt. That's why the Parker has this heat shield that holds the instruments at room temperature and keeps the heat of the sun away. And these are just amazing feats. And so it's so amazing that we are so close and really getting to measure in detail this material up close.
Liftoff of the mighty Delta IV Heavy rocket.
There have been many missions to study the sun, but there's so much more we can learn, especially the sun's atmosphere, which we can see from Earth shimmering during a total solar eclipse.
This new data from this very incredibly close approach of the sun, just touching the surface of that corona, is going to hopefully give us a lot more information about exactly what's going on in our beautiful, beautiful sun that heats up and gives us light.
By getting so close, the probe will enable scientists to see how the sun's powerful magnetic field twists and lifts material to create solar flares. This may help them understand why the sun's atmosphere is so much hotter than its surface, and how it emits a stream of charged particles called the solar wind, which has its effect on Earth when it hits our atmosphere, creating the northern lights. The results will help scientists predict when there are powerful solar storms, which can disable communication satellites and affect weather patterns. The initial data will be sent back by the spacecraft on the 1st of January. Palab Ghosh, BBC News.
It's been suggested the UK should make more use of open prisons to avoid overcrowding and reduce reoffending. The former Conservative Justice Secretary, David Gauke, is leading the government's sentencing review and says prisons have run out of space. He believes there's an opportunity for the system to change if inmates are given more freedom to leave jail during the day for work and study.
Reoffending is a big problem in this country. It is high. We have a higher rate of reoffending than we do in Spain, for example. And if we can bring that reoffending level down, we bring crime down, there will be fewer victims.
One of northern Gaza's last functioning hospitals has had its staff forcibly evacuated by the Israeli military. Medics at the Kamal Adwan hospital say Israeli airstrikes killed dozens of people overnight. The Israeli military says it ordered the forced evacuation because the hospital was a Hamas stronghold. The building has been under siege by the Israeli Defense Force for weeks now. Shama Khalil has more live from Jerusalem. What more are the Israelis saying, Shama?
Well, we've managed to speak to the Gaza Deputy Health Minister, Clive, a short while ago. Dr. Youssef Aburish, he gave us an update. He said that the Kamal Adwan hospital is now completely evacuated and some of its departments have been badly burned. He also said that the ministry had lost contact with a group of its medical staff and that another group were taken into questioning in a nearby building. Some of the patients that were in critical conditions were taken to another hospital nearby called the Indonesian hospital. The problem is that hospital itself had been evacuated and bombarded, so it is not equipped to handle any of those patients. There are no generators, no oxygen, no water. Earlier, we heard from the head of the nursing department inside the hospital who said they were given 15 minutes to move the medical staff, to move patients, some of whom are on ventilators, into the courtyard to evacuate. We also heard testimonies from medical staff, men and women, who were told to take off their clothes to be searched. There was a video with a group of men reportedly in a neighborhood near the hospital, a raised neighborhood. They were only in their undergarments, were their hands up in the air holding their clothes. A few hours before the evacuation, we heard from the director of the hospital himself, and he said that nearly 50 people were killed, about 5 medical staff, in a strike by the Israeli army. Now, the IDF has said that they're unaware that medical staff were killed, and they're looking into the reports, but they also said that they were conducting a military operation in the area around the hospital that they called a Hamas stronghold. Now, if you look at that area, if you look at the area around the hospital, the destruction is nearly complete. This is an area that has seen relentless bombardment since October, since that military campaign against what the Israeli army is saying Hamas fighters regrouping. You know, health officials have told us that the Kamal Adwan hospital wasn't just a hospital that was providing medical services for people. It was also providing hope for people that they could get better in these difficult circumstances. And now that hope is gone.
All right, Shaima, thank you. Shaima Khalil there live with the very latest from Jerusalem. South Korea has voted to impeach its acting president, Han Duck-soo, just 2 weeks after Parliament voted to impeach the president, Yoon Suk-yeol. Jean Mackenzie has sent us this report from the capital, Seoul.
There were these dramatic and angry scenes in Parliament earlier as MPs voted to remove the Prime Minister from office, who has been standing in as the President ever since President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached himself less than 2 weeks ago. Now, it is the opposition party here in South Korea that has done this. They have a huge majority in Parliament. And as they voted to impeach Mr. Han, it was members of Mr. Yoon's party, the ruling party, that leapt to their feet and surrounded the Speaker of the House. They were shouting at him. They are angry that he's even allowed this vote to go ahead. This is the level of animosity here now between the two parties. So how did we get here? Well, over the past couple of days, this row has erupted between the Prime Minister and the opposition party. Mr. Han has refused to appoint the judges that Parliament had chosen to oversee Mr. Yoon's impeachment trial. This is the court case that is going to decide whether Mr. Yoon is ultimately barred from office. And the opposition party have decided that Mr. Han, by refusing to appoint these judges, has been protecting the president, and so he's no longer fit to run the country. What this means is that the country's finance minister is now in charge. He's the third in command. But people here are asking, well, where is this going to end? Because if the finance minister comes in and he also refuses to appoint these judges, then the opposition party could impeach him too, and they could continue doing this, effectively leaving South Korea without a government. And this is now the level of political deadlock in this country, with both parties just shouting at each other and blaming each other for the chaos.
Jean Mackenzie there in Seoul. The National Trust is warning that extreme weather is having a huge impact on its buildings and gardens. In its annual review, it says the erratic weather is also affecting wildlife and historic woodlands, as Justin Rolat explains.
More than 30 mature trees came down as Storm Dara ripped through Bodnant Gardens in North Wales earlier this month. This place has one of the UK's best collections of trees.
Big stand of Douglas fir up here, and they've all just come down one by one like dominoes.
It comes just 2 years after Storm Arwen, which caused even more damage.
We're seeing storms like this far more frequently. It seems they're more severe and they come more close together as well. We used to call them once-in-a-generational storms. So the garden team who have worked here for many years remember similar sort of storms back in the 80s. And then these two, Arwen and Dara, so close together, 3 years apart, has really sort of knocked us sideways.
And it isn't just storms that are reshaping the National Trust's estates. Warm and wet, that is the hallmark of 2024's weather here in the UK. And it's another year that has seen a blurring between the seasons. So the transitions in temperature and weather between, say, winter and spring and summer have become less pronounced, says the National Trust.
We're seeing this kind of moderate kind of homogenisation of what used to be much more distinct seasonal patterns. But we're also seeing really strained weather patterns. For example, we had snow a few weeks ago, followed by days of kind of balmy weather in kind of the low kind of teens. And if you're an animal going into hibernation, this causes chaos to your kind of natural rhythms.
These changes saw bluebells and many other flowering plants flowering later than usual. The wet weather hit bee, wasp, butterfly and moth populations hard, and fewer insects meant bat numbers were down too. But it was a good year for saplings, which need moisture to develop strong root systems, and many species of fungi did well too, as did moisture-loving snails and slugs. Meanwhile, the National Trust reported the establishment of Suffolk's first grey seal colony at Orford Ness. The question now is what to plant in place of the lost trees. They'll need to withstand the climate in 150 years' time. So the National Trust is considering different species better able to cope with the weather extremes we can expect then. Justin Rowlatt, BBC News, North Wales.
Arsenal remain unbeaten at home in the Premier League after a 1-0 win over Ipswich tonight. They're now 6 points behind the leaders Liverpool, as Natalie Perks explains.
The rest of us may be unsure what day it is, but Arsenal were in no mood to rest, knowing a win would take them second in the league. At the scarier end of the table, Ipswich had a tougher task. Their last... But Gabriel simply had to do better.
How's he missed that?
Time for a look at the weather news now. Ben's here. Hi there.
Hi, Clive. Thank you very much. Fog has been causing some disruption on the roads and at the airports today. In some spots, it lingered all day long, keeping temperatures to just 2 or 3 degrees. And in some places, that fog has lingered on into this evening. But over the weekend, I'm hopeful that that fog will start to lift as the breeze picks up, although we will see rain setting in across the north of the UK. Actually, a little bit of rain pushing in across western Scotland through tonight. Northern Ireland seeing some clear spells, but for England and Wales, still that mix of low clouds, some mist and some fog, and temperatures dropping down quite close to freezing in places, a little bit milder out towards the northwest. Now, tomorrow, this frontal system will bring some rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Further south and east, as this area of high pressure tends to move away eastwards, well, the breeze will start to pick up a little bit, and some of that low cloud and fog should start to lift as we go through the day. Maybe a bit of sunshine there across parts of Wales, northern England. Our weakening weather front bringing a little bit of patchy rain across southern Scotland, Northern Ireland. Sunny skies following on behind. 11 degrees there for Glasgow, but staying quite chilly further south if it does remain grey throughout the day. But as this very weak front clears southeastwards into Sunday, it should clear most of the remaining fog and mist. So a much better chance of sunny spells on Sunday across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. But this rain sets in across the northwest of Scotland, and that will continue not only on Sunday, but actually into Monday and Tuesday as well. It could cause some disruption. And then as we look further ahead through next week, there are changes afoot. Into the new year, it is set to turn colder. It will be windy. There will be rain. There may be snow. Clive.
My word, Ben, thank you. Ben Rich there. That's it. Now for the news where you are. Have a very good night.
Hello, I'm Janine Jansen and welcome to Spotlight. It's been a busy day on high streets across the southwest after a quiet start to the Boxing Day sales yesterday when some of the big stores decided not to open. John Henderson has spent the day in Exeter.
Not everyone needs retail therapy after Christmas, but when the sales are on...
Usually try and come in, but I found Boxing Day, either last year or the year before, a lot were closed, so today is a better day to come in. Everything seems to be out, everyone's open, nice atmosphere.
It looks tempting, but inflation means bargains are harder to come by.
It does seem that way. It seems that everything is more expensive, so even the sales are still much more expensive items.
Compared to how it usually is, I wouldn't say that it's, it's manic. You can still walk around, still decent, but yeah, so it's been pretty busy.
Online shopping is big on Boxing Day, especially with some major retailers not opening on the high street. This independent craft shop started its sale today and is hoping customers get spending.
Support the independents in Exeter so we can all survive another year, because the next 3 months are really, really tough, and we need to have had a good Christmas, which, it hasn't been too bad, but hasn't been the best ever. So we need people to keep coming and spending their pennies with us so that we can survive.
Shops surviving one thing, shoppers getting a bargain another. And that's something not everyone buys into.
I don't know why they just don't have a fair price all the year round, and then it would save all this nonsense, wouldn't it?
John Henderson, BBC Spotlight, Exeter.
A man in his 90s is in hospital with serious injuries after a collision between a car and a pedestrian near Sidmouth. It happened on Fire Beacon Lane yesterday lunchtime. Police are appealing for witnesses. Next, a Devon GP is using gardening to help patients with a variety of conditions. Green social prescribing is being encouraged by the NHS, and Dr Susan Taheri has created a large garden next to the Bow and North Taunton medical practice. Chris Ellis has more.
A GP surgery with a difference. Across the car park, this field has been transformed, and the gardens being prescribed to patients.
I think that consulting rooms, clinical settings present so many barriers, and the joy of being in a garden is that I'm usually dressed somewhat less formally, often looking kind of covered in mud or, rain-soaked, and so we're just automatically on a different footing.
It was created by Dr Taheri in 2022 after she recognised the benefits of gardening.
When you talk to your doctor in the surgery, she's a doctor, and you don't let yourself go to tell you what's inside, what you're feeling and that. Whereas out here you can you just have a natter and your mates, and it's different.
When I'm in the garden, I'm not Dr Taheri, I'm just Susan.
Chris Ellis, BBC Spotlight, near Crediton.
And finally, a sad story, but with a happy Christmas ending. 2 otter cubs, orphaned when their mothers were killed, have arrived at the UK Wild Otter Trust in North Devon. Festively named Tinsel and Star, the male and female cubs, who aren't related, will be paired up for a year of rehab before being released back into the wild. Bless them. OK, let's check the weather. Here's Ian Ferguson.
Hello, very good evening to you once again. It's an overnight period under extensive amounts of low cloud, certainly for the majority, some mist, some hill fog, the odd pocket of drizzly rain, possible pretty much anywhere. Now, as we head through the course of the night, we'll find those temperatures gradually settling down to these sort of values. I'm expecting between about 6 to 9, 10 Celsius perhaps at most. Now, tomorrow, much of the day will be broadly similar. So you can take from that, again, a tendency for a lot of extensive cloud, again, some mist, some murk. But late in the day, we've got a weak cold front moving in from the northwest. This will start to lift the cloud base up overnight towards Sunday. Maybe a little bit of light rain associated with that, not much more than that. Temperatures tomorrow, about 9 to 10 Celsius, but the net result will be a brighter day on Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ian. I'm off to have a hot honey and lemon drink. Anna's here tomorrow with the Saturday News at 5:05. Do enjoy your weekend, won't you? Bye-bye.
A new decade brings change to Poplar.
I'm your midwife. The more you tell me, the more I can help you.
It was everything. Everything this job is meant to be.
The new series of Call the Midwife, due Sunday the 5th of January on BBC One and iPlayer.
Christmas has officially begun.
I feel like I'm at the greatest Christmas party of all time.
Make it a special one. This Christmas on BBC iPlayer.
You look amazing.
I love a good wedding.
Have you been dating?
Oh, a couple of dates a few months ago. Archie, mysterious lawyer. We may have looked at his socials. Seriously, Hannah, what's holding you back? Scared of being alone. I'm scared of being with someone.
But isn't anything worth doing terrifying?
Another toast to that.
The Split, Barcelona, starts Sunday the 29th of December at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
It's lovely being surrounded by kids at Christmas.
Yes, lovely. Come on, let's do something festive.
What?
It
hits.
Put me down!
Why do you always do this?
Would you like a lie down?
Oh, God, yes.
I've missed this.
Outnumbered. Christmas special. Watch now on BBC iPlayer.
Johnny Depp's hitting the high seas, Pirates of the Caribbean, Salazar's Revenge, our Friday night film in half an hour, after a father and son series finale.
Richard.
Morning.
I want you to set me up with a Facebook page.
So usually people say morning back.
They were all talking about it in the pub last night. Frank Organ's got one. Spent the entire night showing us pictures of his grandchildren. And you know, I thought, I'd love to do that.
What? Look at pictures of Frank Organ's grandchildren online. Wouldn't broadcast that.
You and Emily were getting on well last night.
Were we? Well, we were. We do.
Maybe I'll be looking at pictures of my own grandchildren soon.
Okay, anything else?
Yes, your breakfast is ready. Big day today. Your mother's ashes.
Oh, yes. Yes, we did say we would do that today. Oh, sorry, Dad, you mind?
Not at all.
No, I meant, would you leave?
Oh, you should have said that. I'm not a bloody mind reader, you know.
Sally, hi.
Hello, prestige TV star.
Sounds weird being called that.
Well, it is very much a supporting role, isn't it?
Sure.
So they booked you on the 4 o'clock train to Glasgow, and then you're on the 11:30 flight to Oslo tonight. Have you told your mum yet?
Dad.
Have you told her? I bet she's pleased.
So what's the plan?
Well, there are a few places I'd like to visit. Just one last time with your mother before we scatter up, yeah? Hold on. There you go. There you go.
You've written here Superdrug.
Oh, that's because I've run out of foot cream.
Right, so which of these places are we actually scattering her?
Well, that's not on the list.
Why?
Well, because that information will be revealed to you when the time is right.
Why are you talking like the guy from the start of a Mission Impossible film?
Well, because I don't want to implicate you in any way.
Sorry, have the Stasi opened a human remains division in for us?
It's just that the place I have in mind, technically, you're not allowed to scatter human remains, you know, legally speaking.
Which begs the question, why there then?
Because that's where it should be. Oh, just trust me. Think of it as one last family day out, eh? Just the three of us.
Before we get arrested?
There is no one that's going to get arrested. Well, your mother's not, anyway.
Hi.
Yeah.
I just sold the house.
Seriously?
Yeah. So I guess we won't be meeting like this anymore. Does happen quite a lot, don't you think?
More than it used to, I guess.
So why the suitcase?
Yeah, about that. Can you hold on to this for me and I'll come and get it later?
Oh, God. Finally snapped with Ken, did you? Oh. Oh, you're leaving, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's what the call was about last night. Yeah, you seemed weird when you came back into the pub.
It's a crime series in Norway. I mean, it's all happened so quickly.
Oh, and you haven't told your dad.
Yeah.
Aha! You're there. Your mother and I are waiting. Oh, you're somewhere nice.
Yes, I am off to...
Norway?
Ooh, Norway. Not a fan.
What's wrong with Norway?
Well, I don't trust them. Caroline Murner went there specifically to see the Northern Lights, yeah? And they told her they're not as bright as you see them in the photos.
And that's the whole of Norway's fault, is it?
Just be warned, OK?
I will, Mr. Pritch. Thanks for the heads up.
Right. Your mother's keen to get going.
Oh, she said that, did she? Maybe you could ask her what the password for your email is while you've got her.
You're scattering Jean.
Yes, we are indeed.
On the same day as I'm going to Norway. Well, that's unfortunate timing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Emily. Did you want to come?
No. I'll leave you two to it. I'm sure I'll hear all about it later.
Huh? Whoa! Careful. With your suitcase.
Well, Norway. Apparently.
Have a great time. Apparently it's very clean. Great transport links.
Right. The journey of Jean and Ken Pritchard's life together begins now.
Where to first?
A magical place. Too heavy, please, Ian.
A Coke. Coming up.
We were here last night. I know we were, but last night this was just a pub.